have Dr. Vassilia Fillidou again from Athena RC. No introductions needed at this point. We have Dr. Maria Flouri from National Technical University of Athens. And we also have online with us Dr. Anthony Koo from the National Science Foundation. And we can see you, Dr. Koo, online. So maybe we can start with some introductions, and then Dr. Flouri will be moderating the panel.
Good morning. Would you like to introduce yourself, Dr. Fillidou?
Yes, again.
Microphone.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here. For the people that weren't here in the first session, just a few words about me. I'm Vassilia Fillidou. I work as a proposal manager at Athena RC Research Center in Greece. I have a background in, I'm a physicist by training. I have a background in quantum computing and a master's in nonlinear optics. And I have been working, I am part of the Gender Equality Committee at Athena RC, and I worked as a welfare officer at the University of Oxford at my college. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now maybe Dr. Koo would like to introduce himself.
Hi, greetings. I'm sorry I can't be in Greece right now. I'm actually in London in transit, so I will be there on Monday. So my name is Tony Koo. I'm a professor at the University of Hawaii, and also I'm a program director at the National Science Foundation. That's a U.S. funding agency that funds science and engineering research. So I have some slides later, but my background is in signal processing and machine learning. I consider ICASSP my home conference. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now myself, I'm Maria Flouri. I'm a research and teaching laboratory associate in the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering in the National Technical University of Athens. Actually, I've got a bachelor in economics, and then I moved to my recent institution. I have an MSc in Techno-Economic Systems from the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and then I held my PhD there as well on how to evaluate, let's say, the risk assessment on the natural gas supply and the corridors. I'm also the gender equality officer of the school, and currently I'm also a member of the institution's gender equality committee. So I'm really happy to be here and to be starting this panel with you. Now, I have, let's say that the first topic that it's really important to discuss, specifically in all institutions, whether these are academic institutions, research centers, are recruitment strategies that one institution might follow. For us, this was when I must say, as Dr. Fillidou said, in Greece, academic institutions and research institutions have started focusing on gender equality, let's say, these years lately, because it's really, something that we need to have. We need to have a gender equality plan if we want to apply and if we want to submit proposals in the European Commission. Therefore, it's something that it's good that it started happening, but it's something that we have put in, let's say, in a systematic review the last 5 years, let's say. My school is the only school in the institution that has a gender equality plan, because we are not at an institutional level, and also we also have a gender equality office. When we were drafting our gender equality plan, recruitment strategies were really tricky for us, because it's something that in public institutions, it's, let's say, procedures are set by ministries. Therefore, we had to think of what measures we could adopt in order to address this issue. And what we thought about is that, for example, our case is that our school is underrepresented in female, has low percentages of female representation in students. Therefore, we have therefore we need to strengthen this in order to increase the pool of future researchers, in order that could be also potential future academics and staff of the school. And this is how we started dealing with this issue. How about your institution?
So with regards to recruitment strategies, what we try to do, and we also included in the gender plan, is basically that we put more effort on creating gender neutral vacancy descriptions. We are striving to offer attractive employer packages. But this doesn't always translate, doesn't mean that we're talking about financial returns. It means that we're trying to make it attractive for females to come to organization and work for us. We have also insisted on having a more humane face of our organization by demonstrating aspects that makes us distinct us from other organizations, and how we could embrace women and how we can support them in pursuing their career. And this one way to do this is by sharing already employer stories about how they feel in being in this environment. So in order to attract more women, and how work-life balance, for example, works for them, and how we can obviously improve it to make the situation better with regards to the ratio of men and women.
And Dr. Koo?
Yes, let me speak from two viewpoints. First, my institution, University of Hawaii. So before we have any recruiting, we have to meet with human resources, and they talk to us and make sure that the committee that we have is appropriately staffed with people of underrepresented, so women, underrepresented minorities. And then we talk about things that, Vassilia gave an excellent talk. Some of the things they talk about is implicit bias and so forth, to ensure that everyone has implicit bias, but to minimize those effects. And then, throughout the committee, we have these representatives ensure that we meet the standards to ensure that we have a fair recruiting process. So from the National Science Foundation, of course, we have similar recruiting strategies. We have our human resources, but also wanted to mention, and I'll talk about this probably later, at all levels, we want to broaden participation to get underrepresented people, from K through 12 to undergraduates to graduate students to faculty, and then up to management positions too. So I will talk a little bit more about that later, but I think NSF has been one of the leaders in, especially in our government agencies, in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and broadening participation. So thank you.
Thank you very much. These are really interesting topics. And moving on, how about retention strategies? Again, in our institution, for tenured personnel, the retention strategies are more or less set for at least the Greek case study. Salaries are established by ministries. maternity and paternity leaves are in place, etc. The issues that might arise refer to the non-tenured personnel, for researchers, for example, non-permanent teaching staff, and so on. Generally speaking, and this is really important, the culture and the climate of an institution is something really important. Let's see what the high-level management really wants to do. That's one thing. So if there's a good environment, then all things are possible. For example, in my school, we have established specific targets that we want to try and succeed regarding the desired female representation, as I told you before, on our academic personnel, as well as on the female students, the students that come each year, let's say. Other measures that are applied. So one is due to COVID-19 that has, let's say, done one good thing, which is flexibility at work, space and hours. And also through our gender equality plan and with the cooperation of many other organizations that maybe they know more about this stuff than we are doing trainings on inclusive communication and inclusive language in order in teaching. We have launched a guide on how to handle gender bias in the framework of the school, what one person can do, what can he or she avoid, and so on. And these all are things that they create an environment which is more friendly and to which people are willing to come back to, let's say. And I would like to hear your thoughts about that.
Thank you very much. Basically, I agree with everything that Maria has said. It's really important for the retention strategy. Basically, a big part of it is determined by the state by introducing flexible working models. And as Maria said, that was the only probably nice outcome of COVID. We're building guidelines for better work-life balance. So this helps women in remaining in the organization. We try to upgrade our digital tools. And we try to, because we really want to attract people from outside Greece, we try to help them embrace the Greek reality by providing more information that they need about how it is that the work culture here in the country and in our organization as well. And obviously a very close monitoring of their steps across the way and how they feel at every stage and whether they can, we're basically monitoring their satisfaction rate. And this really helps preventing them from not leaving, but from being unhappy and thus leaving the organization. Thank you.
And your point, Dr. Koo, your side from your
yes, retention is a very important point, and sometimes, it's not as emphasized as recruiting. So retention involves a lot of things. So often, for example, when we have women faculty at our university, they are overcommitted in terms of service activities and so forth, because everyone wants the one or two women in the department to serve on committees. So this can be an issue. I think, both of you mentioned it's important to create a good environment where women and other minorities feel comfortable. So not only in terms of the technical, in terms of the research and education, but also social environment too. So that is difficult. I'll mention that we do have at the University of Hawaii Native Hawaiian Science and Engineering Mentorship Program. So not only are they looking at recruiting, but they're also looking at retention too. So retention is a difficult subject. So I think one of the things Vassilia mentioned before that's very important is mentorship, to have proper mentorship and have people to go to so that you can feel more comfortable too. And then again, important thing is creating the right environment. So not only the work environment, but also a social environment where underrepresented faculty and students can feel comfortable. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very, I agree that mentorship is a really powerful tool, and it's really, really important. And it's also not only a retention strategy tool, it's, I would say that it's also an achievement and advancement strategy, because as Dr. Fillidou mentioned in her presentation before, role models are really, really important, not only for women, but also for minorities, for everybody. That's something that we are also trying to do in our school. We have in all these efforts, we have assistance, we have support by an Horizon 2020 funded research project, which is Caliper, gender equality in STEM research. And through this, we have designed our gender equality plans, and we are also having knowledge transfer to us and expertise that we might not have in specific domains. For example, one action towards the achievement and advancement strategies similar to mentorship is that we have activated our alumni network towards gender equality and diversity and inclusivity direction. We have asked our members whether they would be interested in participating in mentoring webinars and similar events. And actually, we have received a very satisfactory number of positive results. We had our first webinar the previous week. The issue was how to handle a professional issue or professional issue. We focused really on things such as work-life balance, how to handle uncomfortable questions in interviews, something that our students seem to say that they have a lot sometimes. How to say no, how to ask for help, and so on. It was the first time that such a thing happened in the framework of our school, and we were really happy. We almost had 15 people, which is not much, but it's a good start. And also we have the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering in cooperation with the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, two major universities in Greece. We have launched the GWISE network, which is Women in STEM and Entrepreneurship Greece. We are hopeful that this network will be an open space for networking, for communication, for creation of positive role models, and why not a mentoring platform in order to enforce these kind of strategies in our work. How about, what's your point of view?
For us, in order to advance this particular culture, obviously the first steps are towards raising awareness around the gender equality plan. It's really important for us to organize events, as Maria said, on diversity and gender for raising awareness. We have allocated some funds, dedicated funds for gender equality activities for studies, but also for events. And what we're trying to do basically nowadays is to make the environment for mothers more friendly. So we try to develop, we're going to have a new building, so we try to create new spaces for children. For mothers who cannot, who have sometimes to bring their children at work, and have cozy spaces for socialization, so that everything can mingle and socialize. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fillidou. And how about Dr. Ku?
Hi. Is it possible to share slides? If not, I can just talk.
Of course. Do we have the? Can we do that?
Let's see if I can do that. Yes. So I'll talk. Put on my National Science Foundation hat. I am a program director at the National Science Foundation. Okay, and about half the program directors are permanent and half are rotators like myself. So I previously served at the National Science Foundation, but one of the plans they have, and this is very broad, is broadening participation and includes diversity, equity, and inclusion. So topics that have been discussed very well by Vassilia. So, when we talk about broadening participation, we're mainly interested in the investigator because the investigator submits proposals and so forth. But there are other issues too. So the investigator supports participants, so also looking to student outreach. So actually, this is a problem not just with the faculty, but we need to get more underrepresented people in STEM disciplines. So we have to reach out to students at the high school level, undergraduate, graduate level, the whole pipeline to increase the participation. So not only is it participants, but it's also institutions. So in the US, we have these historically Black colleges and universities, minority serving institutions. We also have Hispanic serving institutions. And then we also have universities in terms of classification. If they're research classification, there are R1. These are the highest level universities, but we also want to support lower level institutions such as R2 institutions and also primarily undergraduate institutions too. So there's also something called F-score. So F-score stands for established programs to promote competitive research in states that traditionally get less funding than other larger states. So about half the states are F-score states, and we want to stimulate more research in there. So one of the things that we want to do is create fairness, but also I feel, being a program director at National Science Foundation, by having more of this broadening participation, you actually improve the quality of research and education when you get more perspectives and so forth. So not only in terms of the people, but also research topics too. So I want to get to this slide here of examples of NSF programs. So if you type National Science Foundation and you type broadening participation, you will get to a page that tells all the different activities at NSF to promote more diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there's dozens of different activities, but I'll mention just a few of the activities. I can mention this now, I can mention this later. Let me stop here. Would you like me to mention this now or later? You want me to just continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay, let me continue then. So as I mentioned, if you go to this website, which you see here, this website is long, but if you just type NSF broadening participation, it'll take you to this website. It tells you all the opportunities at the National Science Foundation to get funding opportunities and so forth. So there are many things listed, but I just highlight a few. So there's broadening participation in engineering. We have different number of solicitations. This is 22-514, and there's various topics. So we have different planning and conference grants. I have some discretionary money, and I would be happy to support more activities to broadening participation. There's targets on research and broadening participation in engineering. There's inclusive mentoring hubs, and then there's centers for equity and engineering. So these are some of the topics addressed in this solicitation. So, I'm part of the signal processing community, and we know all that AI and data science has come to dominate a lot of the research in this area. And I participate in some of these solicitations at NSF. So let me just mention two solutions that we've had before. We had these AI institutes. So these AI institutes were large programs funded around $20 million, and it, of course, went to the larger universities and so forth. And we've had like 3 rounds of this. So more recently, we've had this trying to get other institutions. Not only are some institutions more favored, but we want to make it more fair and more competitive. So we had these, for example, expand AI innovation through capacity building and partnerships. So these are restricted to like minority serving institutions, R2 institutions, so institutions that don't get as much funding so that they can participate in the research, partner with some of the larger institutes that got some of the AI Institute funding. So we recently had solicitation on this, NSF 23-506. And so this allows smaller institutions, especially minority serving institutions, to participate in these activities. I'm also participating in tripods. This is transdisciplinary research in data science. And again, we have an expand data science solicitation that just came out actually in the last week or so and this is restricted to R2 universities that don't get as much funding, and also minority serving institutions, so that they can participate and get some funding in this area. I also want to mention that all proposals submitted through NSF, one of the main criteria is broader impacts. So one of the significant things that you can do in broader impacts is broadening participation for graduate students, undergraduate students, and community outreach to K through 12. So these are all activities that we have at the National Science Foundations to hopefully make things more fair and equitable. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kou. These were excellent examples, and that could be seen as best practices for the Greek case. We might learn from your examples. I wanted to ask you whether you met barriers or obstacles in these programs' establishment in order to establish these programs and keep them going.
I think, again, NSF has been pretty receptive to broadening participation, but there's always issues about implicit bias. So even if, researchers and managers are trying to promote these activities, we always have to bring up this issue of implicit bias. And, it's natural, some examples were already given, like a proposal and so forth. If it comes on the positive side, if it comes from, like a big institution, there's, like MIT or something like that, then you tend to judge it favorably. And then if it comes from maybe, a smaller institution or minority institution, it's not judged as favorably. So NSF has been, I think, fairly proactive at trying to promote, more diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you can even see this as 2 of the leaders at the top were women. So I previously served under France Cordova, and I thought she was very good at pushing activities. And a lot of people at the second level, the assistant director level, including my current assistant director for engineering, is a woman too. So I think they've done a fairly good job, but there's always these biases that persist in government, academia, industry that make it harder. So these are some barriers, and a lot of barriers have been removed, but always you have to worry about these things. Just prevailing structure and trying to break this down. So, I mean, I'm very happy to participate in this panel today, and just mention what's going on in one of the federal agencies in the U.S.
We are very happy to have you here as well. And how about do you think that there are efforts to abolish diversity and inclusion initiatives, apart from, let's say, internal implicit bias? How about the external environment?
Yes. So you do bring up a good point. So there are certain states in the U.S. where they are trying to do this, and it is a very fine line that we at the government agencies have to look at. So when we do mention broader impacts, it's not required that you have DEI or broadening participation initiatives, because there are states, most of you know that there are certain governors and states that are pushing for these things to remove affirmative action. Even at the U.S. level, Supreme Court level, they're looking at cases like this. So it is a very complex issue. I have always been for, affirmative action to try to make things more fair. But yeah, there is a big backlash, especially in certain states in this country, in the U.S., where they are trying to abolish things and even do ridiculous things if there's certain minorities where their percentages are higher than certain values, to try to cut them back. So unfortunately, that's the nature of politics in the United States today. So there is some strong backlash, and then there are people in high places like governors and so forth that are pushing these things too. So that's unfortunate.
I understand. For example, in our case, and for the Greek case, let's say the Greek institutions, they are very fresh, let's say, in the establishment of diversity and inclusion strategies, in practice, at least. And so actions, I wouldn't say that there are efforts to abolish diversity and inclusion, at least not in our everyday life and everyday reality, and not in something really obvious. However, what we have faced in our implementation of gender equality strategies are resistances and barriers from time to time, which can be related to time-consuming procedures, stereotypes, inertia sometimes, and of course, that sometimes this is a low priority matter to some people. I don't know about your...
we have exactly the same experience as Dr. Flouri just mentioned. There aren't any outside factors that affect our wish to implement those strategies locally at our research center. However, from the inside, although there is great excitement, there are some obstacles like those mentioned about not being a top priority and on time-consuming processes, et cetera, But there is a large amount of people who really want to see this happening, and they're very eager to see having this implemented across the board in all Greek research centers and universities.
Thank you very much. And I would say that there are barriers and there are obstacles, but one thing very important to remove those and promote these kind of strategies, not only in SPS, but also in engineering in general, would be, from my point of view, facts, would be numerical facts. If we know what we're dealing with, we can present it and we can show the cases and then have suitable actions. So for us and for me, the data collection is one thing. And then the second thing is the synergies, because Sometimes I hear, but we are engineers. We don't know about these things. And it's reasonable and it's true sometimes. But as engineers are called to solve problems. Therefore, the solution to this problem is find people who can help you deal with these problems, let's say. That at least is my point of view. And I would like to hear yours. On how, let's say, to promote these kind of strategies, how to empower these efforts.
Basically, I agree with Dr. Flouri. We need to do a large-scale qualification study to see where we stand, see how we can, what is the best way of introducing these new terms and new ideas to the people in our organizations. A consultation and helping them understand what these changes mean, I think is the only vehicle forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fillidou. And how about the NSF and Dr. Koo? Maybe your point of view?
I agree a lot of what you say. I may agree with everything you say, actually. I think an important thing is we have to get data. So there are going to be people on the other side that will push back some on these things. And there are, in the US, politicians that are pushing back, but we need to get accurate data. I think a problem in the US is traditionally we've had problems in terms of gender equality, and then also, of course, in terms of minorities too. So not only African Americans, but Asian Americans too. They've had issues through the years. Our country has traditionally been not fair to a lot of these underrepresented groups. So important thing is to get the data to show the facts and so forth, so that we can have a more fair society, and especially promote in our areas in signal processing, more diversity, equity, and inclusion. So yes, we need the data to support what we want to do and so forth. And that's very important that we get accurate data so that we can present. And then at the National Science Foundation, I would say they're pretty good in terms of promoting broadening participation. They've done that for a number of years. But again, we have to work with people outside the National Science Foundation in terms of getting funding and so forth, getting our funding for the National Science Foundation. And there are politicians and so forth that are resistant to some of these changes. So.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And I would add to all of these things that we all mentioned here that it's not only quantity data that it's needed, but it's also quality data. Because we also need to know how our people and the members of our institutions or our external environment, how all these members perceive these situations and these things. So if we know that, then maybe we can have more effective strategies and more effective actions. I would also like to hear your opinion before. I don't know if someone has anything to comment on or. An observation or a question before I have one final question, one final topic to talk about. I don't know, should I go on or?
Maybe, are there any questions from the audience?
Yes, please.
In the US is 93%. Is that? Oh. Shall I repeat? Or? Yeah, I'm talking about the pay gap. Mm-hmm. In the US, I just looked it up. In 2020, it was 19% in STEM, and in Europe, it's 13%, and also in other parts of the world, it varies, but some reach more. I think that must be a big, big puts off women, and
Yes.
besides other problems, but this is one area. The other area is recognition. Women are 33% of the STEM force, but in the academies worldwide, they are only 12%. So, so at the high level, these two are important. And most important, in my opinion, is really pre-university, because we find out that girls, when they are 6 years old, when they are asked to draw a women scientist, what was it? One in two drew a woman, not woman, a scientist. So 1 in 2 drew a woman scientist, but by the age of 13, it was only one, much less. So it's a big, big battle, but I think we are winning, but really at a very, not at a high rate. We still have to work so much harder, especially on cultural things, as we are seeing, for example, in the US.
Just to say a few things on this comment, I very much agree with you. Usually, in order to do a cultural shift, it has been shown that 7 years are needed or more. So I think we're in a very good position at the moment, because now we're building the foundations of this. We're building the notion in people's minds, the culture. So I don't think this is now where we need to put more force in order, and not to give up, and to continue working on these things. And I'm sure in a few years we will see major differences in how universities and the labor market operates with regards to women and diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, I just want to add what Rabab was saying, that it's very important to reach out to the community, K through 12 students, and get all underrepresented women, girls, underrepresented minorities, to consider careers in the STEM fields, especially in engineering. So when we look at projects and proposals and so forth, that's an important aspect that we want to see. We can't require that in every proposal, but I think this is a very important problem, that at all levels, especially at the younger levels, that we need to do more promotion and work in this area to try to get kids of all genders, backgrounds and so forth to consider STEM fields. So not only faculty, there's issues, students, there's issues, but we got to reach it to all of our communities to promote these activities.
This is very important also. I totally agree with all the opinions heard here. And I would like also to stress the gender gap point that was made, because even if we are interested in looking, digging in further into the problem, we might see that even when rates are established and we have the perception that everything is balanced and that there are rates for researchers and this is a standardized procedure. Maybe if we look on how many people are part-time, are working for part-time, then maybe there we might even see that there are differences, and maybe there are inequalities also there. So we must have our eyes and our attention, let's say, high, let's say. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add.
So just a comment. I think in the signal processing community, we've done some things, but even to use social media a little bit more to promote, especially careers in signal processing. So I know Rabab has worked with, to say at a very simplified level, what signal processing is and what machine learning is. So we need to, this is really low-hanging fruit to advertise our community a little bit better so that we can reach out to, you know, all the underrepresented groups. So actually, when I teach classes, I show some of these videos that show careers in signal processing and machine learning. This is already at like a junior level, signals and systems class, but they're not aware of the different careers that are available. So we need to reach out further down to the K through 12 level to say what interesting opportunities there are in some of these careers, especially in the signal processing area.
That's really nice. Thank you. And I think...
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Athena Petropoulou.
Good morning.
I'm the president of the Signal Processing Society. I'm sorry I'm late. My plan was to arrive yesterday, but my plane was delayed. I came this morning. So as president of the Signal Processing Society, I had traveled in various countries and spoken to big groups of people. Turns out that many countries have made big strides in increasing the number of female students, like in China, 50% undergraduates. I was in India this January, 50% undergraduate women in electrical engineering. If you look at their faculty, abysmal. The numbers are really abysmal. In India, I was at an IIT, there was 0 female faculty. Why? I mean, there have to be some reasons, some cultural reasons that we need to overcome, because really the academic research suffers if there's no diversity. And the education of the students suffers. Like these female students will be educated by male, maybe old-fashioned, some of them. So we have a lot to gain in changing this. And becoming a faculty is not something that is so appealing. Like all big companies have realized the value of diversity, and they have big packages to offer to attract the best female students, right? The best PhDs. Universities do not have that much money. So people have to really learn what it is to be a professor, to appreciate and want to become faculty. And it's really a very rewarding job. Many of you are students, but it's amazing to have to deal with young minds, right? It's amazing to have to set up your own research agenda and push for it and change the world the way you want it. You don't have this opportunity in most industries, right? Doesn't pay as good as industry, but it gives you other type of rewards. And some of us think that the sacrifice is worth taking, right? Less money, but have bigger impact on the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Ashwini. I am from India. While I agree with most of the things that you have told, I would disagree with the fact that in India, you could find 0 faculty, women faculty. Okay. So, of course, because of the cultural context, all those things, women have to find their own ways, their own challenges in getting into a faculty position or in that matter, any higher level positions. You won't find many people at the higher end, but still we are, where there is a will, there is a way. We are finding our own ways to get there. But as she said, it's not only about the awareness in women. Those are the challenges. But sometimes it becomes difficult for the other counterpart to accept that they could do it. So most of the cases, even some of the supervisors, I personally know some of them who doesn't prefer to take a PhD student or a graduate student who is a female, because they think that she has to multitask and she has to give priority to a family and all those things, multiple things, and they can't accept. Of course, sometimes the women cannot contribute longer time per day, but she can contribute consistently over 10 days. So these kinds of flexibility, I think whoever is in the field, they have to understand, and awareness, like you can see here itself, how many of us are females and how many male participants are available. So awareness should be, what I feel is, they should also be made aware that we have also the power, we could also do. Of course, the circumstances are not same. So we have to find our own strength and we have to play forward to reach where we want to. So that's it. Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah, she used it and it works. Okay. So, okay, sure. So I really agree with what she said. And something I would like to add is sometimes like event like this, which empower women and which shows that women can do a lot of things, which is sad. Something is sad about that is most of the time, 80% of the people over there are women, while it's not a battle for me. It's just like, it's something that women and men should both like attend. And those type of events or like inclusion should actually like include men as well, as sometimes they're the one who has to change as well. It's not just like the woman who has to fight. And regarding the minorities, I think sometimes, like as she said, it starts from the very young age. So like when you're not well oriented or when you don't have people around you which are in the field, it's very hard to find your way, because you have to like kind of find your own way or try to like do your own research. While when you have people around you doing this or doing something similar, it might be easier to have like contact or to get in the field. So I think it's a bit of everything, like helping people as well, not just because yes, there are resources, but it might be hard for people who don't know about those resources to like get there and to have access to it, both for women or for like minorities, I think.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I think that we can close the session. I would like to thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. There were some very important points that were raised, and I would like to, we would have a small break now. I'm sure and we will continue in 45 minutes, if I'm not wrong. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ku. Thank you, Dr. Fillidou. Thank you, everybody.